Hello everyone, you're listening to the Adaptive IG Foresight webinar series. Welcome. I'm Gary Colton, founder and chief exec of Adaptive IG, and I'm your host for today. Soon I'll introduce our speaker Lee Mackay, who will be telling you about health and well-being. It's not a nice to have, it's a core competitive advantage. I just know this session is going to be a really great one. But first, before I go on to introduce Lee, I wanted to share our thoughts on some of the takeaways from this webinar and tell you a little bit about Adaptive IG. So by the end of this session, you'll have a much clearer understanding of things like why prioritising well-being at work is essential, the pitfalls to look out for when piecing together a programme, a framework to support an integrated strategic well-being culture. Now, Adaptive IG is 7 very experienced business consultants working on organisational culture and performance, and collectively we share a very simple belief, that it's the people working in diverse, inclusive cultures who deliver high organisational performance. So look after your people. We have several other members of Adaptive IG on the call today, including Dr. Ian Dodds, Shaba Toth, Patrick Ballin, Jason Cobine, and Jim Jordan. Now, Lee's talk will be followed by a Q&A segment where you can get yet more value from the session. And at the end of this session, I'll tell you how to get in touch with Adaptive IG and give you details on the next webinar in the Adaptive IG Foresight series. Now, it's my great pleasure to introduce our presenter for today, Lee Mackay. Lee is also a founder member of Adaptive IG. It's her belief that a successful business depends on everyone in it working effectively whilst feeling at their best. Now, research shows that people with high levels of well-being are more resilient on a mental, physical, and emotional level. And they tend to make healthy choices in their attitudes and actions. And this leads to overall improved performance for individuals and, ultimately, the businesses they work in. Lee's high quality and scalable initiatives help in a number of ways. They help teams consistently reach their best personal potential, making them feel valued, motivated, and engaged. They help businesses enhance profitability and dynamics and talent retention. And finally, people are emotionally empowered to live their values through their work. So Lee's topic today is, as I said, health and well-being is not a nice to have, it's a core competitive advantage. Over to you, Lee.
Welcome everyone, I'm Lee Mackay and I'm really proud to be representing the Adaptive Intelligence Group today. Understanding well-being and the impact it has on performance is something we'll take a look at and see how this is a key driver for business objectives, how it helps us compete in the market, and how it's a core competitive advantage. How this term is defined continues to be a topic of academic debate. It's a dynamic process which draws on an individual's subjective experience, and this alludes to a few definitions. So well-being is an experience, and it's influenced by our age, class, gender, expectations, and culture. I've shared a definition with you from the World Health Organization. A state of well-being is one where every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Now, for those of you listening and think that well-being is a soft and fluffy topic, this definition may support this. The plan is, in this webinar, to explore exactly the meaning and relevance of well-being in a work perspective. So where are we with well-being today? Virgin Pulse, a leading global provider for employee well-being software, carried out a 2017 survey in the States, and the results from over 600 HR leaders showed that well-being, engagement, and culture remain top priorities. It revealed that employers that invest strategically in these areas experience greater outcomes that measurably impact business performance. 78% of this year's State of the Industry survey respondents reported that well-being is a key component of their business strategy. The focus on well-being or employee well-being is expected to shift from optional, nice-to-have programs to mandatory, mission-critical business investments. So why is there this shift? Well, the last 10 years, through the wonders of technology, has seen more change than ever, which requires us humans to keep up. With it come some challenges like blurred boundaries between home and work, greater expectations, a faster pace, ongoing change, more complex global economy. This can leave many employees feeling like they're running on empty. It may be that staff are suffering from low energy levels, eating on the run, dealing with challenging relationships, ultimately leading to stress. The challenge businesses have is to create an environment where they can inspire their staff to bring their whole selves to work, somewhere they can reach their full potential. The shift in prioritizing well-being is also driven by the negative outcomes, by the impending cost that will affect you as a business if you choose to do nothing. These costs can be seen in statistics around stress. Research shows there's a convincing link between stress and ill health. When stress becomes too excessive and prolonged, mental and physical illness may develop and impact our well-being negatively. Let's see what it's costing you. In the United States, work-related stress costs companies $30 billion a year in lost productivity due to sick days and absenteeism. Australia, work-related stress costs businesses in excess of $7 billion in absenteeism each year and $28 billion in presenteeism. The UK, stress accounted for 37% of all work-related ill health cases in 2015 and 2016, and poor health and well-being costs the UK economy up to $57 billion a year in lost productivity. A business that does not support a well-being culture is one where we see these high stress levels and staff tipping over into the bad stress zone. And I say bad stress because there's actually such a thing as good stress. We need a dose of stress to get out of bed in the mornings, motivate us, and get us going. Not prioritizing well-being and staying healthy, coupled with external factors that become unmanageable, tips us over into this bad stress zone. Bad stress presents itself with symptoms, both behavioral and physical. Behaviors and emotional symptoms include unclear thinking, feeling withdrawn, feeling aggressive, inability to make decisions, lowered creativity, high anxiety levels, low confidence. The physical manifestations of stress are people not feeling well, so colds, stomach upsets, migraines, headaches, blood pressure issues, immune system disorders. These stress symptoms then create an environment that we work in. What kind of environment might you find yourself in where people are stressed and not feeling well? Behaviors you may experience are conflict, lack of team cohesiveness, poor communication, and lowered productivity. It may even feel like a negative environment that does not just affect your immediate staff, but has a knock-on effect with your clients too. A nest of negativity. So committing to a strategic well-being plan over a period of time offers outcomes the likes of lower absenteeism. Promoting good health at work can see a 25 to 40% reduction in absenteeism. Talent retention and lower turnover. So when issues arise and we support staff in the short and the long term, from a financial perspective, rather than lose that talented person, support them and keep them as part of your team. A measured estimate from the Society of Human Resource Management says it costs 6 to 9 months of a person's salary to replace them. Other estimates say as high as twice an annual salary. Think about the advertising, interviewing, screening, onboarding, your time, training costs, the time taken to reach the same level of productivity as the rest of the team, and the teething errors along the way that have a knock-on effect with customer service. Business outcomes of health and well-being also include things like high staff morale, increased employee engagement. So there's a strong correlation between employee engagement and well-being. They're mutually reinforcing relationships. By promoting well-being, staff are 8 times more likely to be engaged. High performance and productivity. The potential economic return on investment for UK businesses, £1 investment gives you up to £4.70 return. Happy staff, happy clients. And I've shared with you a case study from Mars Confectionery. So they're a UK-based company, and they rolled out a wellbeing initiative over the period of a year. And this was their feedback. 89% said this campaign positively influenced their energy levels and resilience. 68% said it helped them make long-term changes to support a well-being lifestyle, decreased absence levels and stress levels, increase in reported quality of sleep, and daily productivity. I've also shared with you something from the British Heart Foundation, and they carried out research and have shared an online calculator where you can work out the cost savings per employee when tackling employee absence and presenteeism. Now, I'm aware we have people listening from all over the world. Absenteeism and presenteeism is a global phenomenon, and whilst the figures on this are based on UK national averages from various sectors, this is still an insightful tool to review. So we've seen the startling statistics on stress and loss of productivity. We've seen the figures to support business outcomes if we choose to pursue well-being. Why do some well-being initiatives fail? Or perhaps it's a case you're sharing a well-being offering, but it's not successful. Well, the first one is the subject's not taken seriously enough, and I nearly took this off the list, but chose to keep it. The subject's now high up on the majority of business agendas, but astoundingly, there remains a small percentage who hold a degree of cynicism towards well-being. Lack of accountability. So do you have a dedicated well-being manager? Are these responsibilities shared amongst a chosen team? If this is the case, do these people have the time to bolt this responsibility onto their existing roles? Is well-being something you need help with from external suppliers, perhaps? Poor communication. So this is an area where there's been the biggest shift and seen businesses really trying to focus on the most effective messaging for well-being initiatives. Creating an explicit communication encourages buy-in. So staff members will be asking, what is this about? How will the outcomes help me? How can I sign up? Create collaboration space for the well-being enthusiasts within your business to flourish. So identify, encourage, and reward these enthusiasts. They will help communicate, talk about, and role model well-being behaviors, and they're instrumental in supporting those personnel responsible for well-being. Lack of flexibility for staff to get involved. So staff have the most amazing facilities and initiatives on site. However, they're in a department where the trend is work, work, work. And bucking that trend and being the only one in the team is hard. It almost feels like they need a manager's permission to get involved. Weak leadership buy-in. Leadership buy-in is essential for multiple reasons. So if you're going to lead a team, doing this when you're feeling really healthy and at your best is great. To lead by example, so your buy-in shows you care and your team will start to trust your good intentions. So when you role model these behaviors, they become the norm. It is your day-to-day actions that will set the trend. It's the leaders who will ultimately determine a well-being culture. It could be that you're offering well-being initiatives, but it's not addressing the needs of the people. So needs can be established through your reporting data, risk assessments, and surveys. But sometimes the simplest solutions are overlooked: team and face-to-face conversations. And then lastly, lack of consistency in offering. So timings, do you dip your toe in, or do you share a consistent offering throughout the calendar year? Whilst it's great to use National Awareness Days as signposts, ensuring the timings are consistent is key. Lack of consistency in content. Is your offering all about physical well-being, or is it a fully rounded offer? So we have diverse workforces, and so diverse holistic offering is needed. What's a holistic offering? Well, well-being, being the dynamic and subjective phenomenon that it is, needs a holistic approach, which means we need to address it on multiple levels. And we've named these different levels domains. So if the domains are touched on, they're not necessarily standalone. There's overlap and they reinforce each other. So here's what you can consider in your offering. This is what you're going to do. Look at mental and emotional. And this is where we see the most of our work. Educate staff on ways to manage stress and renew emotional energy. Equip staff with training so they feel confident to have conversations around ill mental health. Give everyone the choice to talk about how they feel without stigma creeping in. If you have an EAP offering, the likes of counseling, make sure staff are aware of these options. Pursue enduring change and commitment to embed this. Physical. well-being. So implement a framework to support a good physical well-being framework. Offer your staff knowledge around nutrition, healthy eating, physical movement, exercise. Introduce health risk assessments and physical challenges. Doing this will not only send energy levels soaring throughout the organization, but help in lowering the risk of disease too. Health of your wealth, ease the burden of financial worries for staff. So financial worry is something that's likely to be keeping them awake at night, impacting their concentration and decision-making at work. Equip your staff with practical knowledge to feel empowered and to take control of their finances. Purpose and values are an essential ingredient to our well-being and critical to keeping staff engaged. As my colleague Patrick Ballin mentioned in his recent webinar, a shared, clearly understood and distinct purpose is particularly important when new teams form. With clear purpose, staff members have direction, involvement and recognition. A strong sense of purpose offers positive emotional and psychological benefits. Our next recognized domain we've called happy talk, which essentially means communication. So 60 to 80% of problems at work stem from strained relationships between employees. Listen to Chaba Toth's recent webinar on communication, and he shares with us how statistically 75%, that's 3 out of 4 people, are significantly different to us in terms of how they think, make decisions, deal with conflict, and express emotion. So the quality of our relationship with others affects our personal and professional life. Here's what you can do. Implement training to help your team recognize, understand, and optimize why people think and behave differently. Leadership resilience. Highlight to your leaders the importance of their buy-in. Equip them with knowledge and training. So for them to be advocates, it's important they've experienced some of the initiatives. We're nearing the end now, so achieving balance, well, work-life balance, get creative and start thinking about what's practical and what's realistic. So use the wonders of technology to support flexible work practice through remote working and online collaboration. We have an increasingly demanding work culture, and work-life balance is one of the most pressing challenges to mental health. And the last one we called a well-being nugget. The first reason being that well-being is an area that's constantly evolving. So with neuroscience research, we need to reserve the space for future developments. This space is also reserved for industry-specific needs. Think about retail, hospitality, or perhaps the IT sector. You all have industry-specific challenges that will affect your staff's well-being. It may be that you have a workforce who juggle shifts, or a team of executives that are constantly traveling. Learning ways to nurture good sleep is something needed for them. And that's just a summary of all of the domains. So we've taken a look at the statistics around stress, and we've looked at some well-being outcomes. But budget holders listening, you may still be asking, where is the return on investment? To notice this, it's important to pursue measurement from the beginning and ongoing assessment. Results will become clear by maintaining HR data, the likes of absenteeism reports. This is a key source of data in understanding issues. Make sure these are up to date and accurate so you can analyze these issues in aggregates. If you have an EAP in place, use the anonymized data, particularly with mental health, where people are not talking openly about it. Employee engagement assessment is an option, and if you have someone in occupational health, feedback from them. But also consider the value on investments, so these outcomes are less easily monetized. This can be noticed in staff morale, their participation, the energy, and ultimately your company profile. And I've included a quote which I love from D. Eddington, and he's a health researcher at the University of Michigan. The cost of doing nothing is far greater than the cost of doing something. And another statistic which says healthy, highly engaged employees are on average up to 30 days more productive. So some more evidence to support the well-being case. We actually shared some work ourselves with Save the Children, not with the children, with the actual personnel at the head office in London. And this well-being initiative fell under the mental and emotional domain in the form of stress awareness workshops. The training was available to everyone, It included looking at stress, how it manifests, how we can recognize it, how we can manage it better. So we shared pre-training survey. We're always mindful of attendees walking out of a training room and feeling inspired, full of ideas, only to forget the key learnings. So for this reason, we share a reminder snippet of key learnings for 6 weeks after the course. 8 weeks later, a post-workshop survey is shared. And these were the results. So there's an improvement in recognizing our choices in dealing with stress, recognizing ways to relax and replenish energy, and recognizing our stress symptoms. In fact, an overall improvement of 17%. Another case study that I shared with you, the second one, is from Wellbeing Leaders, and that's Marks and Spencer, and they're one of Britain's largest retailers. So M&S took action to tackle mental wellbeing workplace stigma and act on an internal lack of awareness of the mental wellbeing support offered at the company and a lack of confidence with the issue. It developed a three-pronged approach focusing on awareness, signposting, and upskilling. This comprised of involving the senior leadership team, looking at ways of tackling unhealthy working habits, training HR in mental health first aid to give them confidence in dealing with ill mental health. Communication was strong and messaging sent out via posters and conversations which were actually shared on Yammer. Online support materials were made available to all the staff. So their strategic in-depth approach has meant that the mental wellbeing initiative is growing across the business at all levels, improving performance on attendance, productivity, and customer service. And when someone's been there and they've done it and they've been successful, I'm a firm believer in looking at their top tips, and this is what they share. Connect the relevance of mental well-being to your own business priorities. Consider a self-learning approach to engage senior leadership. Use employee voice and advocacy to drive an authentic campaign. So where does the responsibility of well-being lie? Ultimately with the business. The individual's responsibility is to make use of their choices, and businesses to furnish the individuals with an environment where well-being is an easy, obvious choice. It's these individuals that make up the sum of all parts of your business. So if you look at a typical day, for many of us, the amount of time commuting, amount of time at work, amount of time sleeping, leaves a small percentage for personal awake time. So if well-being habits are only adopted in our personal time, there becomes an obvious imbalance. It needs to be a lifestyle. So when I think about the why of well-being at work, the statistics are weighty to support this, but it goes further than this. I like to align the outcomes of prioritizing well-being with thinking of successful sports teams. So having grown up in a family where half the members were professional athletes, sports has always played a big role in my life. So for me, the analogy of a sports team works. Is there a successful sports team that you can relate to? In looking at your teams at work and likening them to a successful sports team, what do you think the key ingredients are for success? Obviously, talent and skill set is important. With sport, we need the skills to play the game. In the office, these skills are needed to fit the job. However, a large proportion of success can be contributed to the physical, mental, and emotional wealth of a team. A successful winning team, what does it look like? My colleague Patrick Ballon, also spoke about the components of team performance in his webinar in August. So if you have a chance, take a listen. Full participation. Everyone arrives at practice and for the games. There's a shared purpose. They feel valued. They know exactly where they fit in. So they're not just a cog in a big wheel. They know their position on the field. They play to each other's strengths, and they use their resources well. Communication, trust, and honesty bind successful teams. So there's a climate of psychological safety that makes it easy to ask questions. They have transparent conversations, resolve differences in an honest, constructive way. There's a connection, there's a strong connection, and they understand each other's motivations. They know how to support each other. Physical health and well-being is high up on the agenda. They aspire to remain injury-free, nutrition conscious, eating for energy. Performance is a priority. Sleep is important. So they re-energize, recharge, and restore. Mentally and emotionally fit. Now, this is not to say they don't have days when they don't feel great and when negative self-talk slips in. If they continuously work on turning that around, and fostering positive emotional energy. And lastly, a successful sports team will have strong team leadership. So a team captain, a team coach, they'll be walking the talk, ensuring accountability for high performance. So what is your team looking like? Is it a case that they're carrying injuries? So to summarize, you've looked at a well-being strategy. You'll see you're going to look at who's accountable, carry out a needs analysis, create your plan, communicate that plan, deliver the initiatives, and measure the whole way. And ultimately, what we want to create is a well-being culture. Organizational culture is defined as shared understanding of values and beliefs. The same principles can be applied when it comes to well-being culture. The normal behavior expected and shown in conjunction with inclusive leadership behavior becomes the culture. So to build a well-being culture, it's imperative to have the support of key members, the likes of leadership. Staff will be looking at leaders for cues. Leaders' actions speak louder than words, so it's your actions that are visible to everyone. You can have as many policies as you like, but these really need to be lived. So if yours is an organization that values work-life balance, and as a business leader, you're continuously emailing your staff all night and across the weekend, they will feel like they need to reply. So your signals are contradictory to your company values. If you'd like to learn more about inclusive leadership, AIG member Dr. Ian Dodds shared his webinar on this topic earlier in June. So that's also available to listen to. So to finish off, take a snapshot of your business today. For some of you, you're already well on your way to well-being success, and others of you may be just starting out. This is great. Small, consistent steps create positive change and ultimately well staff. Organizations that put employee health and well-being at the core of their workplace cultures will continue to enjoy significant competitive advantage in terms of higher employee engagement, increased productivity, and stronger business performance. Pursue well-being at work. It's human, it's the right thing to do, and it makes good business sense.
Thank you very much, Lee. That was a really, really insightful talk, and the statistics behind this health and well-being issue, I don't know how anybody can ignore them, and I don't know how anybody can argue against them. So if we could hand over to Jason, shall we? If you could unmute Jason, please, so that he can handle the questions.
Hello everybody, this is Jason. We've got 2 questions so far, and I'm searching my emails for some. So the question that was first asked by Liz is about the overall difference between well-being and wellness. So Lee, do you think you can cope with that? What's the difference between well-being and wellness?
Wellness is more of an overall subject, while well-being is more about the actual person.
Okay, that was nice, short and sweet. Thank you, Lee. And Julian has asked of the well-being domains that you described and you bullet pointed in one of your slides. Do you have one where you feel it would offer the quickest wins?
Oh, it's a great question. Thank you, Julian. Actually, I think they all work together, to be honest. I mean, obviously mental and emotional well-being are high up on the agenda for everyone at the moment. And I think it's often where is seen the greatest need, you see the greatest return. So that is everyone's focus at the moment. But I don't think we should ignore the other domains and just focus on one. I think it's important to have the holistic approach.
Okay, but if you had, say, a new initiative, is there one that is easier to start off with before moving on to the others, or do you have to assess the actual organisation you're within to work out which one might make a good start?
I would be keen to first look at the organisational needs and definitely work on a needs basis. So as an example, the happy talk, if no one's communicating well and that's really, really poor, I'd start with that because everything else will follow on from that.
Okay, thank you very much. One question from me. You mentioned Yammer. I'm just going to put a bit about Yammer in the chat box, but Yammer, I understand, is useful in these programs because it gets people communicating. Have you seen it at work at all, or anything like Yammer?
There's quite a few different well-being collaborative software applications that you can use. But I mentioned Yammer just because I know Marks and Spencer's use that in their conversation. So, whatever CRM you use within your organization to talk, but Yammer happens to be freely available, and it really worked well for them.
Okay, so it's good. It's good enough for Marks and Spencer's. It's probably good enough for everyone. It's free, isn't it?
I think so. It is free, yeah.
Okay. And Mike has just asked a question. How do you see mobile technology and the information sharing that happens play in the holisticness, if I've said that correctly, of wellness? I think it would help with that, wouldn't it?
It would definitely help, especially with staff's engagement, and actually reporting back data every day and their buy-in. So definitely quite a huge growing part of the industry.
Fantastic.
Jason, if I might jump in there, we have a member of Adaptive IG called Key Hubs in Minneapolis, and that I know that they're developing a really exciting, initially web-based tool for assessing the wellness and emotional status of employees, and we're going to bring that to the market in the next 6 months.
Okay, so it sounds like as well as Mike being interested, there's a lot of interest in all the technology that can enable well-being. And talking of enabling, Ian has asked, Ian Dodds, do organisations ever develop well-being champions, or is it always from outside, or how does it work? How does it work best?
Does that question mean...
Is that for Ian? Or?
It's from Ian, yes.
Sorry, Ian, can you repeat that, please?
So do organisations ever actually develop wellbeing champions, or do they ask third parties to
No, they definitely develop wellbeing champions within their business. Absolutely. There's lots of people passionate about wellbeing, and these will be your key drivers. And they do rely on outside suppliers as well. Yeah, thank you, Ian.
Okay. And Kate has asked, is there an emerging problem with wellbeing as a brand becoming focused by organisations such as yoga, exercise, rather than the root cause of the mental health issues that you mentioned at the beginning?
So just repeat that again, please, Jason.
Is there an emerging problem with wellbeing itself as a brand when people think about well-being, but they think about yoga and exercise, actually tackling the root cause of mental health issues?
Yeah, and I think this is where the soft and fluffy bits can often come in, and where the cynicism lies. So for often when people think of well-being, they do think of the odd exercise class or a yoga class, but actually it's greater than that, and that's why the importance of all the domains. But what's also important is, yes, mental health and well-being is important, but by looking at our physical well-being, that's going to have a knock-on effect on our mental well-being. So they all go hand in hand. But yeah, there is definitely a problem with that view.
Okay, so the solution is for people to celebrate the relevant domains rather than concentrating on one or the other. So going back to the question asked earlier, as you said, rather than dealing with one, try and deal with them all holistically.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any other questions from the audience?
Jason, I got a question from earlier from Jason Thorne, and it relates to how much effort that companies put into health and well-being. So how much of he says, how much of the employer's remit should be assigned. Lee, have you any
I like this question. It's quite hard to assign an actual percentage. So I know for like a lot of businesses, they assign a 10% remit to marketing, as an example. So to assign an actual percentage is quite difficult. But what I would do is work backwards and look at what it's costing you, in terms of the absence and your staff turnover. And also look at that statistic. For every £1 invested, there's a £4.70 return.
It's Jason again. I was thinking about that earlier because, as you said, the cost of recruiting is the same as paying someone for 6 months, up to 24 months in some cases. So, and with such a big return, you spend £1, you get £4.75 back.
Yeah, yeah.
Why aren't people investing in this? Is it because they just don't understand what the root causes are, or they're not sure that it's something they can deal with, or they maybe think, well, it's not my problem, even though it is? What do you think is the root cause of lack of finding the root cause?
I think it's changing, actually, Jason. It is changing, especially as these great case studies emerge. It just takes time. And it is a shame that often it does fall off the budget, well-being does, but there's definitely a change.
Okay, well, it's moving in the right direction. That's certainly the fact that we're here and so many of us are listening to this. I'm going to close the questions down now. If there are any, then I'm sure Gary will tell you how to send us questions thereafter or communicate with us, for example, our LinkedIn group. So thank you very much, Lee. Over to you, Gary.
Thank you very much, Jason, and thanks to everyone for your absolutely excellent questions. It's given us a lot to think about. If we could move one more slide on, that would be great. Thank you. So thank you very much for listening today. Our mission is very simple. We're dedicated to helping people and their organizations, particularly their leaders, create high-performing, inclusive and diverse cultures, and cultures that deliver tangible, improved results. Otherwise, why would we be here trying to influence anyone? Now, I'd be delighted to meet with any of the participants present today, either physically or via Skype, and explore more about how these factors can work in your organization, or indeed your organizations work with you. So you can contact me at adaptivig@adaptiveintelligence.co.uk, and you can find out more about Adaptive IG at our website, www.adaptiveintelligence.co.uk. Now, we'll be sending you those contact details in our courtesy follow-up email, and we'll send you a link to the edited version of Lee's webinar and also some summary written highlights. Finally, as you can see on the slide, we would like to see you at our next webinar in the Adaptive IG Foresight series, where Jason Cobine, who is your question master today, will discuss the blame game. How does a culture of resolution and not retribution increase profits? And that will be on November the 28th at 1600 GMT. I hope to see you all then. Thank you and goodbye.